Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Hello.
Good day, Caesar.
Hey there. Let's set up my. You guys hear me well?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, let's see who's here. Hi, Cecilia.
Hi.
Hi, Ruth. Steve, B, hello. Amit.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
Let's get started. Start sharing the screen. All right, so I'm looking at the schedule and man, time flies. We only have 2 classes left for today. It feels like it hasn't been enough. Or
Time
maybe
accelerates.
or maybe it feels too long for you guys, but I don't know. I feel like I would like an extra couple of classes just to really cover everything. But let's see. So here's the plan for the next couple of classes. Today, I'm going to talk about phasing and design options, a big topic that's probably going to take the entire class. Next class, I'm going to talk about work sets and work sharing and working in teams, and maybe touch a little bit about design collaboration for Revit, which is the solution from Autodesk to allow work sharing and work collaboration on the cloud. Probably some of you have these solutions already in place, but I'm going to review it very quickly. And then the last class, I'm just going to go over Family Editor. And so what that means is that I'm going to comprise the Family Editor from 2 classes to 1 class. And then I think we're gonna cover the entire syllabus. Okay, another thing is for the class today, which is about design options. We're going to make use of these data sets under the Google Drive is the phasing design options. I'm going to copy a link to these data sets and paste it in the chat panel. Data sets. And let's see. Nigar, I think you have a question, Nigar. Your hand is raised. I believe.
Yes, I have a question. Is it possible to go through review how to create the roof as well in one session?
Project delivery?
No, the roofing, the building roof.
Sorry, it's hard. I barely hear you.
I can type it.
Yeah. Oh, roofs. Okay. Did I not cover roofs? Maybe I did not. You know, let's start with that. Let's start with that very quickly, and before we jump into. Oh, give me a second. Somebody's knocking the door here. All right, let's get started. Let's do the roof very quickly, let's see. For that, let's start a new building from scratch. Just going to you can start a new project and go into architectural template, hit OK. And I'm also going to pull my slide deck.
Excuse me, is it live in YouTube?
Share. You guys see my screen? Yeah. I have a PowerPoint.
Yes.
So roofs are system families that are created via three methods. You can create a roof by phase. And this is a method in which you select the surface of an existing geometry in the project. I'm not going to cover that because it's very similar to the walls by phase, which we covered earlier in the project. Then we have roof by footprint and roof by extrusion. The roof by footprint it's a method of creating roof in which we define the outermost boundary projection of the roof into a work plane. And define what is the slope associated with that edge. The roof by extrusion is a method by which we switch to an elevation or a section, and we draft the roof profile and extrude the roof perpendicular to the view, perpendicular to the screen by a certain distance. So here is the first method. You start a roof by drafting the boundaries of the roof projection in a work plane. We do this using sketch lines. The lines need to be in a closed loop. The lines cannot overlap. And each of the lines is the receiving edge of a slope. And that is a property of the sketch line. The instance properties of each of the lines allow you to change what is the slope associated with that receiving edge. Revit is going to pick that information and do the math for you and build the valleys and the highest point automatically. So on the screen, you see the process of creating a roof that has two slopes, and the sketch line are hosted by a roof level. You can create very elaborate roofs, like this is an example, by just creating a closed loop of sketch lines and associate the same slope to every receiving edge. No need to build geometrically the high points or the lowest point. That's the first method. So let's jump quickly into Revit and let me show you how to create a simple roof. You go into the architecture tab and then hit the roof by footprint. The first step is to select what is the level where the sketch lines are going to be hosted. This project has two levels, and we are on level 1. So for now, I'm just going to select level 1 as the hosting level. Then I'm going to Revit switch you to sketch mode, where you use the sketch lines to draw the boundaries of the roof. You can use rectangles, lines, arcs. And for my money, and for doing it very quickly, I'm just going to create a rectangle and create a rectangle on the screen. And notice that by default, Revit display these little icons are adjacent to each of the sketch lines. So this is a slope defining edge, and this is a property that you can disable before you create the sketch line using this checkbox. If the sketchboard is clear, then you can clear that the sloping properties of that sketch line. So I'm going to leave it like that. The other thing you may want to know is there are families associated with roofs. This particular template has 6 different templates, and I'm going to pick the generic 9 inches. There's nothing special about them other than it has a single structural layer of 9 inches. We can certainly modify, duplicate, and change the layer assemble. And then the other thing to notice is the slope. Like this is the overall slope for the roof. And this is a factor of 9/12, 9 inches on the rise, 12 inch on the run. This is something you can change. And right now the slope units are set up to display rise over run. You can certainly, you don't have to do this, but you can, before you start the project, you can certainly go to the Manage tab, Project Units, and change the way Revit reports slopes. The options are ratios, over 1, over 12, over 10, over 10 feet, and then the rise over run, and there are different ways to represent a slope. I think imperial in the US, rise over run is typical, so I'm not going to change it. But if some people use roof to create floors, and sometimes you represent slopes by degrees or by ratios. So I'm just going to cancel here, but I'm just showing you ways in which you can change the representation of slopes. And then hit the green checkbox, and this is the roof. Where you see it on the screen, it's the cut plane of the view range acting up and sectioning the roof at a 4 foot above sea level, above level 1. When you switch to 3D view, that's where you see the whole thing. I'm going to give it some color shaded, and that is the roof. Now, roof also have edge properties. If you select a roof and look at the way it connects with the level, there are different ways of connecting. Those are that property is called the rafter cut. The rafter cut by default is called a plumb cut. And what that means is that you start, the roof follows the sloping line, and then a plumb cut, it just perfectly perpendicular to the working plane. This is a section of that edge. This is the cut, the plumb cut, PEC plumb cut. The other properties is the two cut plumb, which enable the fascia depth. I'm going to change the fascia depth to 4 inches. And what this does, if you look carefully into this, you have the ability to define what the fascia thickness value is. So this height, it's 4 inches, and that is the 4-inch property that you see right here. Obviously, if you change this to 0, then it's just going to appear, the edge is going to touch the work plane. And then the other method is the two cut square. And again, you can change a fascia depth value to 4 inches. And what this is actually doing, it's making the fascia line perpendicular to the slope surface. So in other words, if I cut a section here, the angle between the fascia surface and the roof surface is 90 degrees. And that's why this has a slope. You can also customize and change the fascia depth. All right, so I'm going to reset this to plumb cut, which is the default one. And let's look at ways of changing the existing roof. To access the original boundary lines, you can edit the footprint, just give you access to the sketch line, and then you can selectively change or disable the slope property of sketch lines. So when you access the sketch lines, clear this checkbox and hit the green checkbox to return to the 3D model. And notice how that doesn't become a sloping receiving edge. Again, select the roof, edit the footprint. If I select this other one and disable the roof defining slope and the instance properties and hit the green checkbox, now I have a roof that is a roof line that is not sloping. All right, I'm going to edit the footprint and show you other things about edges, about this. I'm going to click the green checkbox, sorry. Edit the footprint and re-add the roof sloping properties of the sketch line. Or you can just undo until you get to this point. So notice also how at the top of the roof, there is a handle with a double arrow. This is an intuitive way to change a roof slope. And it's the equivalent of manually change the slope. So if you grab this handle, stretch it up, then you're actually changing the slope value. Most people never use that because it's just a guess, like it's hard to control visually, but you can refine it by inputting the manual slope in the slope value. 9/12. That's 9 inches. All right, let's look at other ways of creating interesting shapes. So I'm going to select this roof, edit the footprint, and if I remove the sloping properties of these, of two of them, of the perpendicular one, then I just have a two-slope roof. You can play with the sketch lines to create interesting configurations. For example, if you just want a single sloping roof, let's say for a shed or something, just select one of the edges to receive a slope and disable the other ones. This is a slope receiving, and so my roof is going to slope this direction. So you hit the green checkbox, and that is, you can change the slope using the handle. I'm going to undo and take me back to my 4-slope roof. All right, flat roof. Often in a lot of commercial, we use flat roofs. And the best way to represent a flat roof is by removing all this sloping edges. So you edit the footprint, select all the sketch lines inside the sketch line, and disable the define roof slope instance. That's going to create a flat roof. Now, all of you know that flat roof not always doesn't really exist in the world, right? Roofs have to slope, even if they are like tiny slopes. But we have a way to modify the surfaces of a roof using shapes. And there are two types of shapes. You can add split lines to a roof, or you can add points. So you're going to find the shapes in the contextual tab. You're going to see the two shapes options here: add point and add split line, which allow us to do surface sloping for flat roof and flat roof conditions. So say, for example, this roof is going to have two drain points in those locations. The idea will be then that I have to add a split line, which basically partition the top surface in two sections. And then I add 2 points and add an elevation point to the location, which is going to technically depress the roof. And I think when we were looking at floors, we were looking at this functionality. So I'm not going to go a lot into it because we already covered it in floors. So let's add a split line. We select the roof, add a split line from the midpoint of one direction, snap perpendicular. And that's going to split the top surface into two sections. And then I could add a point. And the point needs to receive an elevation value. To change the elevation value of those points, you hit modify sub-element in the contextual tab, hit the point, and give it a value. Let's say the depression at that point is going to be -4 inches. And the same with this point. The depression at that point is -4 inches. And then escape. Now I have a roof that has two draining points and a split line. So the difference between modeling roof and modeling floors is they attach differently to the levels. So you don't have to do this, but I'm just going to create an architectural floor. And then I'm going to reset the shape of this roof. And when you look at this in elevation, just look at how this relates to the level. The floor, the floor defaults to the level at the top surface, the finished floor, and the roof associated with the level from the bottom of it. And this makes sense because when you define roof, you maybe want to define the top of steel. Top steel is usually the bottom of the roof. And so if this is going to make a difference in the way you make decisions of the building, you can choose one or the other. Roof and floors almost behave the same way. All right, so that was that's in a nutshell the roof by footprint. Pretty simple. The other one is the roof by extrusion. And for that, you need to switch to an elevation or create a new section. Because a section is going to be the work plane that hosts the sketch lines. So in this particular example, I'm going to switch to the level 1 and create a section. So you go to the view. Oh, let me show you quick the process in the PowerPoint. The roof by extrusion starts by switching to a section or an elevation. And then you define the outermost profile of the roof. This profile is the lower projection of the surface underneath the roof. And this is one of the few system families where the sketch lines don't have to close. You can just define the shape of the roof in a section. You can use reference planes to help you guide it for precision. If you define extrusion distance toward you is a positive direction, that's towards the view. A negative extrusion is away from the view perpendicular on the screen. This is the result of roof by extrusion, and then you can extend the walls to the underside of the roof in order to fill these open voids. So let's do one very quickly here. So you go into a section, create a section here. I'm going to do it a section looking towards the right. And then I open that. This is a view to level 1. Maybe you want to stretch the view and make it a little bigger. Then I'm going to create a roof by extrusion. So under architectural tab, hit roof by extrusion. Revit is asking for a work plane. The work plane is hit it by name. Let me see. I need a work plane in order to host the sketch line. So what I'm missing here, I need to go back to level 1, create a work plane. So you go to under architecture, go to the level 1 and then create a reference plane. And then this reference plane, which is in the direction to the section, should have a name in order to be visible in that drop-down list. So I'm going to call this extrusion host. This is going to host, this work plane is going to host the profile. All right, and let's get started again. So I want to go to this section and then start a roof by extrusion. In the list of work planes by name, you're going to see the reference plane that I just created, the one I called extrusion host. In order to be schedulable, a roof needs to be associated with a level. So I'm going to choose level 2. And then this takes me to sketch mode. And in sketch mode, I can create a combination of lines, of arcs. I'm going to do a barrel extruded roof using start and radius method. So you start here, you end there, you give it a radius escape. This is the lower surface of the roof. Peak roof type, I'm going to stick with the generic 9 inches. And then rather than the plumb cut, I'm going to do the 2-cut plumb with a fascia depth of 0. That's fine. And then hit the green checkbox. Again, 2-cut plumb, fascia depth 0, click the green checkbox. The roof couldn't be cut. What is that? Let me return it to the plumb, but only. Oh, there you go. I didn't need to change that. In 3D, this is how the barrel roof look like. You can use the arrows to pull and push the extrusion at start and end. And these distances are measured from the work plane. So again, if I edit the profile, this is the line hosted by the work plane. So it's somewhere around here. And then these distances indicate this is the work plane. 6 foot away from the work plane is the extrusion end. 19 feet away from the work plane, it's the other end. So you can control manually these distances. If you want to be very precise based on a work plane, just move the work plane to a different location. You can be very creative about the type of roof you want. I'm editing the profile here, and I'm going to create a combination of lines and arcs. And that is my new roof by extrusion. So this type of roof, it's an option when you can't build a roof using the roof by footprint. All right. Any question? Pretty simple. Behaviors of the roof are basically the same, very similar to the floors. You can create new types, duplicate, add layer systems. You in your company you can have just like we do with the walls. You can have a file that contains the most frequently used roofs, and you can copy paste them across the projects. All right. Any question? I know I flew through the exercise. If you fall behind, feel free to check the recording. Okay. So with that said, let's go quickly to the topic for today, which is design options and phases. And this is a very important concept, especially small practices who do renovation or retrofits, because it involves the documentation of existing conditions and new conditions. So let's review some of the terminology before I move into the exercise. In the meantime, I hope all of you have downloaded the data set. But let's look at some of the phase and terminology. A phase defines a design scope over time. And the phase, it's an instance parameter of a view. So you can create custom phasing under the phasing dialog box available on the view tab. But by default, the default template has two phases: existing, everything that is recorded as existing conditions, and new construction, which is the scope of the new work. Many projects, especially big campuses, are staged over time, and you may want to plan very careful how the documentation is going to work by adding additional phases over time. But the main concept here is that the phase is a stage of the work over time. Here's a question: where's the data set? Do you see the link in the chat panel above? It was posted at 5:34. If you arrived late, maybe let me get it again. It is this phase and design options. Copy link. In the chat panel is the data set again. So hopefully you get it, Charles. All right. All right, take a look at these definitions, because that's on the test next Thursday. All right, the other one, which is a little, all these terms are definitely Revit terms. So we have to put it in the context of the software, not in the context of, our real world. Object phasing are instance properties of every object. And it's a combination of two different parameters. One is indicates when an element is created and when an element disappears or when an element is demolished. So the object phasing, it's a combination of two parameters, the phase created and the phase demolished. And the combination of these two different parameters create the status of an element. So a status of an element, it's a condition of an object in a view as a result of the phasing. For example, existing objects are objects created in a previous phase, and they are not, they don't disappear in the project. So they was just created in the previous phase, and then if I go back to the previous one, see how phase demolished says none here. So an existing object was created in the previous phase, but in the current phase is none. It hasn't been demolished. It's existing to remain. New elements are just created in the current phase. And so if I see this combination, a new element was created in the new construction, but it hasn't been demolished. So it will be none. New construction and none, that is a new element. The status of the demolished object is an object that was created in the previous phase and is demolished in the current phase. So these are existing to be removed. If I look at the phasing, it will be an existing element. The object was created in the existing phase and it was demolished in the new construction. Think of walls that needs to be replaced or needs to be changed in the current scope. All those walls were created in the previous phase and they are demolished in the active phase in the new construction. And then we have, this is less frequently used, temporary objects. And temporary objects are objects that are created in the current phase and they are demolished in the current phase. For example, temporary trailers or temporary protection walls or temporary fences, which we typically don't include in our scopes, but they are scope of the contractor. The object phasing will be, these are created in new construction and they are demolished in new construction. So the combination of the object phasing creates the element status. Does that make sense? All right, here's where it becomes a little hairy. It's not that difficult to understand, but maybe for beginners. The phase graphic override apply a color graphics to the object status. Remember, the object status is this definition: when something is created and when something is demolished. Existing objects can receive a line weight, a line style, a fill pattern, and a material using the graphic overrides in the phasing dialog box. You can assign a demolish line type for elements that are created in the previous phase and demolished in the current phase, in the new construction. You can have new objects to have a different line weight. You can also assign materials in this override. And then temporary objects that are created in the current phase and they're demolished in the current phase, they usually receive these dotted lines. So the graphic overrides applies it it shrunk all the visibility graphic that you set in the object styles and all the VG graphics of the view. So it's very, very strong. Phasing overrides have as trump the rest of the graphic overrides. It's very difficult to trump the graphic override that's given by a phasing. For practical effect, you're probably familiar with the representation of existing objects as grayscale objects, right? Every document represents existing objects as gray objects. Some people like to apply a pattern to existing walls. You can apply a gray pattern override if needed. In this particular phasing, there's no pattern. And then demolish objects. Some companies represent them in black, some companies represent them in gray. I don't know, it's preference of documentation. But you can change the graphic overrides according to your preferences. It's all good here. So phase graphic overrides, properties assigned to the status. A status is a combination of when an object is created and when it disappears in the project. The object phasing are instance properties of an object. All right, and this is the last phasing terminology, and it's a little scary, but it's not. This is called a phase filter, and the phase filter is a view property. It maps the visibility options applied to objects based on their status. In other words, think of it as a toggle chart that allow the status of different objects to be displayed by category. This is applying the object styles. In other words, respect the default settings, the overall default settings. You can trunk the object styles and apply an overridden toggle. The overridden toggle apply the properties, pair the phasing overrides. I mean, applies these settings. Or you can choose to not display them at all. Let's look at some example. I think the more obvious will be a filter applied to a demolition plan. A demolition plan shows everything that is existing to remain and everything that is existing to disappear. So all the elements that were created in the previous phase, all the objects that are going to be demolished in the current phase. But you don't show at all the new elements. And so a demo filter, the new elements are off, and this drop-down list is blocking it so you don't see them. So the new objects in a demo plan are not displayed. The existing elements, sorry, this previous and demo, yes, this is the one, show previous and demo. The existing objects are overridden, and what that means is going to apply the existing graphic overrides to the objects in the view. The demolished objects are overridden, and what that means is that the demolished objects are going to inherit the line weights of the graphic overrides. And then the temporary objects are not displayed. So what I'm actually doing is reading at the filter applied to demolition plans, which is show the previous objects and all the demo objects. I was wrong with highlighting row number 3. Well, this is going to make a little bit more sense if you look at if we put it in the context of some graphics. So take, for example, this is a tunnel. The tunnel was created in the past, and you receive documentation about existing condition. And you receive a model in Revit that was created by the previous architect. When you open that model, existing conditions are shown as new because they were developed by another firm at another point in the past. But you have a new scope of work that's going to extend this tunnel in 2 different phases. So the first thing is to change the view filter, the face filter. The face filter is going to apply a graphic override to all the objects that are there to remain. So this gray color is given to the view based on the face filter that's called show previous plus the new. New is the new scope. All these 3 objects were created on phase 1. And then all these objects under the orange background, those were created in the existing phase. There's going to be a demolition in the wall between them. That particular wall, the object status needs to be changed. It was created in the previous phase, but it's going to be demolished on phase 1. So that is an instance property we need to change. And you can have temporary work. These are objects created and demolished in the same phase. So this phase filter is a property of the view and allow objects with different phasing to display according to their graphic overrides. So the scope of phase 1 is finished. Let's do phase 2. On phase 2, the combination of existing and phase 1 are considered now the existing condition. And so the same filter called show previous and new, it's applied to a view in phase 2. So all the objects created in previous phases to remain will have a gray override applied to it. All the objects created on phase 2 will receive the objects, a representation by object style. The wall between this demise wall obviously was created in phase 1 and is demolished on phase 2. And the phase filter kick in and apply a graphic override because the object status indicate that this receives override graphics. And finally, when the 2 phases are finalized, the best practice is to apply a phase filter that is called show complete, which basically apply to all the objects a representation by category. And this will be the ideal condition in which you receive your scope of work before this is sent to another firm for a future work. Does that make sense? All right, let's do an example. Any question here about these terms? Oh, good. All right, so I have downloaded the files that I posted on the chat panel. And I'm going to open the file that is called existing. So put this under my. Okay, this is a model that you receive from another architect or from the owner. And the scope of work, it's a retrofit of an existing office, and it's going to be done in 2 phases. This will be phase 1, and this is going to be phase 2. There are some walls that are existing to remain. There are some walls that are going to disappear in different phases. When you select a wall, notice that the instance properties display the object status. And remember, the object status is a combination of when an object is created and when it's demolished. Now, I need to fix some of this because this was the work from a previous architect, and this no longer represents the current contract phasing. So what I need to do is to create the appropriate phases in the phasing dialog box. Phases are available under the Manage tab, and you're going to find the phasing button in towards the right side of the ribbon. These are the default project phases in the project. And I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to rename the new construction, and I'm going to call this phase 1. And phase 1 is the north portion of the office retrofits. And I'm going to insert a new phase right after row number 2, after. And you can call that phase 2. You can add a description if you want, describe what the scope of work is. The north office, retrofit. And this will be the south office retrofit. How many phases you need in a project? It's all about logistics, scope of work, contract, timing, schedule, resources. You as a project manager have to decide how many phases a project is going to be using. All right, so the phases are scheduled in this dialog box from past phases to future phases. So the order in which you place them is the order in which the packages will be sorted out. All right, so now I'm going to apply this, hit OK. And then I need to basically select everything about this model and change its phase status. So this is incorrect because all of these objects were created as part of the existing, our existing condition. And so you can do this one by one. You can select one wall and then change the phase status. This was created on existing and it's not demolished. And notice how immediately the phase filter overrides kick in. An object that was created in the previous phase and is not demolished is going to inherit the graphic overrides of the view. The other thing I'm going to do here, it's before I start doing anything, it's rename the views and duplicate the views according to its purpose. So on level 1, I'm going to right click and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call this level 1 dash existing conditions. And I do not want to rename the levels. So hit no here. All right, the filter override that this view needs, it's show previews. But in order to show previews, I need to fix the status of all the elements. And the fastest way to do this is to do what? A filter, right? You go and select everything on the screen. All of this is going to be moved into the existing phase. In the property window, notice how there is this common 226 elements. I can start filter out elements by type. So I'm going to start, let's say, with the walls. All the walls in the project will be assigned to a face. Now, the reason I don't see the face here is because this is a combination of curtain walls and walls, and they need to be selected differently. Let's see. I'm going to disable Revit's selection of pin objects. Notice when I do this, you see all those pins. Those are curtain panels, and the curtain panels inherit the phasing of its host. And so there's no need to select them or change phasing at all. So I'm going to deselect, I'm going to disable our ability to select pin objects. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to again select a wall, right click, and then select all elements, all instances in the entire project. This is basically going to select all interior walls. And then all these interior walls are or were created in the, I'm showing this here. Now here are the facing information. So if I select multiple walls, I'm surprised, and then just select the walls. Surprised I don't see that. It may be my machine. I may need to restart, but let's see. When I filter this, I only select the walls. See the property in bulk, which is a little weird. Because you see, if I control select the walls, then I do have a way to select the phasing. This is a little tedious. I don't like that. So let's see, right click, select all instances, visible in view. Oh, that's what it is. No, it's not there. You guys having the same problem? Do you see the face filter when you do multiple selections? The easy things to do then is then control select the walls, which is a little tedious. In the past, this has worked for me. I don't know why I am not able to see the phasing information. But all these walls in the interior should be created in the existing phase, and they are not going to be demolished. Again, control select all the interior walls in the project. I'm just doing control select and change the phase created to existing. And the same for the exterior. If you hit tab, that's going to select all the walls in the outside, change it to existing. And then these curtain walls also are created on the existing. Select the curtain wall and assign it to the existing. And notice as soon as I do that, the properties of the elements start to change into grayscale. The doors is the same thing. Let's see if I can do the doors in a single step. Do a filter. I select the doors. And then here they are. They are created in the existing phase. And the walls, I'm puzzled why the walls doesn't allow me to do that. So if I do a cross selection and do filter, and it's just select the walls, well, now it does. I just did the same thing before and it wasn't working. All of these walls are created in the existing phase and they are not demolished. All right, once everything has the appropriate object status, and when things are created, when things are demolished, then I'm going to put this back here. Okay, stack this. I'm going to stack this one on top of this another one. This one. Another one. All right. So all the doors, all the existing curtain walls, all the interior walls are assigned to the existing condition, and now the filter I want to apply to this view, it's this reflect existing conditions, so I need to change the phase to existing, and that will be the existing condition. Existing conditions will be applied. Now show all, if you look at this and look at the phase override or the filter, show all, display everything by category. And that's why, you know, suddenly the existing condition turn into black. If I want to display all the existing conditions as gray, then I need to switch the phase to phase 1, and I need to display the filter that's called show previews. Show previews phase. And then this gray color, again, it's given by the phase filter, where that says, if you apply the show previous phase into the view, new objects are not going to be displayed, existing objects are going to be overridden, and the overridden condition for existing objects is a grayscale. And that's what the filter is doing. It's a toggle of graphic override conditions. All right, let's continue. Right click. Any question here? So this is my plan of existing conditions. I don't think we typically document that, but if you need it, here is the way of doing it. I'm going to duplicate the view. And now I'm going to create a demolition plan. So I'm going to rename this level 1, and I'm going to call this demolition demo plan. And this sort alphabetically, that's why it moved up. Now the demolition plan display existing objects to remain and existing objects to be removed in the current phase. The appropriate filter that I need to apply, I'm going to open the filter. You don't have to do this. The phase filter I want to use for a demolition plan is show all the elements to remain and all the elements that are going to disappear. So the phase filter for the demo plan is show previews and demo. New objects are not going to be displayed. Existing objects to remain are going to stay gray. Existing objects to be demolished are going to appear in dashed line. So again, face filter, it's a toggle of visibility graphics applied to the object status. All right, but the objects we're going to demo are all these walls. And so one way of changing the status of an object is to add when it's going to disappear. This wall is going to disappear on phase 1. Just change the phase demolish. And the view filter of the demo plan, I didn't change it. The view filter needs to be show previews and demo. The view filter applied to the view is going to apply a dash line. So in other words, this is the view filter, show previews, and demo is what I'm applying. Demolish objects that were created in the previous phase and are demolished in the current phase are going to show overridden. The overridden override for demolished object is a dash line, and that's why these appear in dash. Now, you can do this one by one, but you can also use the hammer tool. A hammer tool, which I like to use when I can. It's a way to change the object status of elements. So under the Modify tab, you're going to find the hammer. It's under the geometry. Make sure that the phase filter is as shown for the demo plan. That we are on phase 1, that we're showing previous and demo, and that is our active view. And then I'm going to grab this hammer and I'm going to apply it. I'm going to hit on every element that I want to demo. And notice when I use this tool, the doors that are hosted by a demo wall automatically change as well. Right, so this is the scope of work of the first one. And then the other thing that's going to happen is that these doors that are here in the design, they're just going to be removed and replaced with new ones. And we're going to change the swing. They're going to open to the outside. So I'm going to select this door, and I'm going to, or these couple of doors, and I'm going to change the phase demolish to phase 1. And these doors are now are going to disappear. All right, so this is a demo plan of the first phase. I need to call or rename the view accordingly because this is a demo plan of phase 1. So I'm going to rename this, and I'll call this demo plan phase 1. All right, my existing conditions, if you open it, appear to be changed. So I was wrong with the phase filter here because what I want to show is the show well, this should work. Why disappear? Oh, because I am on phase 1. So I need to change this to existing and show all. I don't think I have a filter that allow me to display this in gray, but you don't have to do this, but I could create also a new filter. So under the phase filter, I'm going to add a new one, and I'm going to call this show existing. And what this is going to do, new objects are not going to be displayed. Actually, yes, previous objects are going to be overridden. Demolishers are not going to be displayed, and temporary is not going to display. So everything that was created in the previous phase is going to receive override. And then I'm going to apply this show existing here and put this on phase 1. Yes. Show existing. I actually need to duplicate the it has to be exactly like the show complete, except that the existing is overrated. Yeah, that's what I did. Let me sort that out and get you an answer on how to apply a gray color to existing condition. Right now, it doesn't look like I can, given the phase filter. Okay, so this is my demo plan for phase 1. And now we're ready to create the construction plan. So select level 1, select the demo plan and duplicate it. And I'm going to rename the copy. And I'm going to call this level 1 construction plan. Construction plan, phase 1. The phase filter that need to apply here, it's show everything that's preview and everything that is new. So the phase filter here, it's show previous plus new. And the demo objects are not going to kick in. And that's because of the phasing filters. Show previous and new says that new objects are going to be displayed by category. Those are all the new objects. Existing objects are going to be overridden. They're going to be appearing here in gray. Demolished objects are not going to be displayed, and temporary objects are not going to be displayed. So that is the phase filter. And everything that is existing to remain appears in gray. My demo objects no longer display, and I can start doing the retrofit. I have an office layout ready for us, and we can bring it from the data set. We're going to link it, and then we're going to bind it. Bind it is the process of exploding a link and make it part of our Revit project. So go to the Insert tab. Make sure that phase 1 is the active phase on the view. So I'm in the construction plan. My active phase is phase 1. And then go to the Insert tab and go to Manage Links. And in the Revit tab, we're going to add a new link and bring phase 1. You can use the origin to origin, that's fine. Again, I am linking phase 1 in the design options folder that we just downloaded. There you go. This is a link. The link was placed in a view that has phase 1 as the active view, and that's why they appear in black. So now you select the objects, and we're going to bind it and explode it. So binding a link, make it part of the model. Bind it. When you bind something, you can also bring levels and grid. I'm not going to do that. Or what the Revit does do is that removes the link. Make sure you hit the remove link here. And the elements stay in a group. I remember we talked about groups earlier. We can ungroup an object, a link. And now every element that I hit in this new option, it's going to be created on phase one. So Revit, the exploded objects inherit the property of the view, the active view. So if I had placed this existing, then all this furniture would have been moved to the existing phase. All right, let's look at phase one also brought a new storefront. This is a new storefront in 2 sides of this conference room. And go to the demo plan and notice a couple of changes where new objects appear. For example, these storefronts appear in level on grid 1. Revit is going to identify the location and it's going to identify when openings are needed in preparation for new construction. So these 2 walls need openings, and Revit knows that based on the family, and it highlights for you when you need to create an opening for a new window. The other thing that Revit does, it infill openings left by demolition objects. In the previous phase, these doors were removed. And then Revit automatically knows that in the new construction, there's a segment of a wall that needs to be infilled there. And that's what it does, this thing. And I can add additional door. I mean, if the door is going to be placed and add a new door, you just go to architecture, door. The door is going to open to the outside. I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to put another one here. Just hit spacebar to flip it. Yeah, I move this down a little bit. And this is how you represent when you're just changing the door. In the demo plan, it's represented as going out, and the construction plan shows going in. All right, any question here? All these objects, when you select them, they are created on phase one. They're not demolished, they're existing to remain. All right, so let's continue. Let's move into phase two. Phase two is going to be a retrofit of this, of the south side, but we're going to start talking about design options here. So let me show you a deck of design options. Design options allow you to explore multiple design scenarios. You can investigate materials, layouts, patterns, fenestration. You can assign it to different floor plans using the same model. Design options, it's a property of the view, meaning that you can selectively display what design option is reflected in views presented to clients. You can compare design options using view option design option specific schedules. Design options become an instance parameter of the objects, which allow you to create and compare data between them. Scheduled data could be compared. You can actually make quantifications, differences in cost, with requirements, etc. When do you should use design Options? Typically for alternate furniture layouts or single floor layout, shading device options. Sometimes it's used to display roof load scenarios, although this is not that common, or different type of window selections. Let's look at also terminology around design options. In design options, we have something called the main model, which is the rest of the project. The rest of the project that is not a design option. That's part of a model that is not defined using a design option. And pay attention to this term because it's also on the test on Thursday. Or you can do a screenshot afterwards. A design options set is a collection of options addressing a design problem. You want to have 4 layouts of furniture in a floor plan, that is an option set. Or you want to have 3 options of a lobby layout, and that is an option set. You can have multiple option sets in a project, you just need to name them accordingly. Design option is one solution to a design problem. An option set has multiple design options. Now, within the option set, there's one label as the primary options, which is the preferred design option in an option set. And it's important in Revit because the primary option establish closer relationship with the elements in the main model. For example, walls that belongs to our primary options will connect very neatly with the main model walls, only if they are part of the primary option. And so the connection of objects appear very clean between the primary option and the main model. And you're going to see this shortly. Secondary option are alternate options. And in general, you can swap them. You can make a secondary option a primary option or vice versa. And when you start drafting inside design options, there are active options. And the active options is the option associated with a view. And everything you create is placed into that option. So it's similar to a work set or similar to a layer. You make the active option the current one, and everything you create is part of that active options. You can deactivate the options and go back to the main model, but design options needs to be edited as a separate layout in a view. And then for every design options, we create dedicated views. So just like we created dedicated views for different phases, we also create dedicated views for design options. So we're going to duplicate. If I want to create, hey, stop it. If I want to create 2 or 3 different design options in a project, I have to create 3 different views and then associate an option to the view properties. And we're going to do that in this little example, in this little project. All right, this is the workflow. We create the main model. We decide what set of options we want to investigate. Create a design option set. We edit the primary option. Then we add secondary options, and then we associate options to the view properties. And finally, once the client decide what option they want to move forward, you can bind it. In other words, remove the secondary options and stick with the approved option. All right, let's see how that works. So in this lower side corner right here, we're going to have option 1 and option 2. So I need to create additional views for those construction plans. But first, let's create demolition plan phase 2. So select the construction plan phase 1 and duplicate it. And we're gonna call this new view, we can rename it, demo plan phase 2. Demo plan phase 2. And in demo plan phase 2, everything that was part of phase 1 is an existing condition. Everything is existing condition. And everything that goes inside this corner is going to be disappear. So the first thing we need to do is associate the appropriate phase and phase filter to the view. So change the phase to phase 2 and change the phase filter to show previous and demo. Right. I don't have any demo item for phase 2 yet. That's why everything appears as gray. And if I bring the phasing graphic filters, show previous and demo, it's telling me that new objects are not going to be displayed. Everything that is existing, everything before the current phase is going to have a gray scale. It's going to be overridden. Demolished objects or elements that disappear in the current view are going to have a dashed line. They're going to be overridden, and temporary objects are not going to be displayed. So that's what this is telling you about. All right, so time to demo. Let's grab the hammer. You go to the Modify tab, grab the hammer, and let's knock this baby off. So you just need to select the walls. There's no need to select the doors. Everything that is hosted by the doors will be automatically placed to the demolition phase. And what's happening, what the hammer is doing is changing when the object is demolished. It's changing this property to phase 2. This is what the hammer do. The hammer is actually changing the phase demolished to the active view. All right, and that's it. This is my demo plan. So let's now create the construction plan for phase 2, but we're gonna do it in 2 options. So I need to duplicate the demo plan twice. So duplicate the view, and I'm gonna do this twice. Duplicate the view. And the first copy, I'm going to rename it and call it level 1 construction plan dash phase 2 option 1. And then I'm going to do the other one, rename construction plan phase 2 option, actually I think it's option B, option A and option B. So I'm going to go back and rename the other one. So rename, this is option A. And option B. Now let's open option A. So knowing what you know by now, in the instance property of the view, what is the phase filter I need to apply? If you can just type it on the chat panel. Which of these should I use? Or you can just say it. Well, is it show new, show existing, show previous and new? What do you think? I'm doing a construction plan. I like it, Steve. Oh,
Still playing catch up.
okay. Yeah, the face filter here, it's show all the existing objects plus the new ones. So I'm going to apply show previous and new. And notice how everything about the demo goes away. I'm going to go to option B as well and do exactly the same thing. So change the filter to show previous and new. All right, I have option A and option B. I'm going to bring now the option A in the form of a link, and then I'm going to bind it and associate with an option. Now, design option is something you have to activate. Notice how in the lower right corner or the middle portion of the screen, you have the design options dialog box. This is grayed out because there's no design options. To define design options, you go to you can just click this design option button. It's right at the middle of the screen. And these open the design options dialog box. So again, it's this little square at the bottom of the screen, which opens the design options dialog box. All right, so this is the design options. I'm going to create a new option set. And option sets, usually name them correctly. So after you hit the new button, select the option set and rename it. I'm going to call this the phase 2 options. And notice that automatically Revit creates a primary option, and you can create additional options. So I'm going to create an additional option. So hit the new button. And I'm going to have, I can rename them. So option 1, I'm going to rename it and call it option A. And option 2, I'm going to rename it and call it option B. All right, option A, option B, hit OK. And notice now that the design options drop-down list is something that is active in your current view. And so this is important, but because moving forward, you need to watch what is your design options. Main model is everything except the design options. So if you want to place something in a design options, you have to select the active option. And you can either draw things in option A or option B. So in order to bring option A, I'm going to switch my active option to option A. Notice how everything that is not option A will be grayed out. There's a grayed overtone. This is just a temporary override. It's not going to get printed this way, but it's just toned down everything that is not part of option A. And then everything I place in this view is going to be option A. And I can start drafting in the corner a office layout. I'm saving you that time. I'm going to bring a link, bind it, and explode it, and ungroup it. So you go into the Insert tab. Then you go to Manage Links, and under the Revit links, hit the Add button and navigate to option 2A. And hit OK. This is the new layout. And this reminds me that this demise wall needed to be demolished. We did not demolish it, but we can do that. In order to do that, go to the demo plan on phase 2. Change the primary option to main model. This give me access to the model, and then grab the hammer, modify hammer, and that's going to make that the mice will go away. So let's go back to option A. This is the option B or option A display in the corner. Now notice that you cannot select anything that is part of a design option if this is the main model. But when you switch to the primary option, the only thing you can select are elements there. So this is the link. I'm going to bind it. And you bind it, you receive a dialog box message to attach additional information. I'm not going to include anything else. So clear this checkbox and hit OK. Hit OK to this material duplication, and then remove the link, select the group, and ungroup it. All right, so I think I'm done for option A. Option A, I go back to the main model and notice option A is displaying my option. One thing, and then when I go to option B, notice that option B is also displaying option A. So options, it's a property of the view, and we have to assign dedicated design options to a specific views. So if I want this view to display only option A, we have to hit now visibility graphics. You type VG. And when design options are enabled, you're going to see a new tab in the upper right side called design options. This tab only appears if you have the design options enabled. And in the design options, you can assign or force the view to display a specific option. And so in this case, I want option A to always display in this view, and I force in the view to display it. And then I'm going to switch to option B, and I'm going to force option B to display option B. So you go to visibility graphics, design options, and in the design option, you will force the view to display option B. There's nothing on option B, that's why you don't see anything right now. So let's bring option B. Option B is also a model. We're going to link it into the active option B, and then we're going to bind it and explode it. So in the construction plan phase 2 option B, change the active option to option B. This is a secondary option. And then bring the link, go to the insert tab, manage links. On the Revit tab, hit the add button and select option B, origin to origin. This is option B. And again, we're going to bind it, insert it, and ungroup it. Bind it, exclude all this checkbox, then ignore, just hit OK when you see this duplicate type. It's all materials. And remove the link, select the group. Probably need to hit a point outside before selecting it, and ungroup it. Every object that was placed in option B is going to receive an instance property called design option 2B. There is. Every object that is part of a design option has a parameter called design options that associate with the display of the option in a view. And once you're done, just switch to the main model. And now I have option A. And then you have option B. Two options inside of the same model. You can place this view in a sheet. I'm going to create very quickly a sheet. So you just go view, sheet, using the default template of title block. And then you can place all these views in the sheet. Let's start with, these are my existing conditions. This is the demo plan, phase 1. Oh, it's very big. I could go inside and switch off the elevation markers on all of them. So that's gonna trunk. Or you know what? I don't need elevation, so I'm just gonna delete them. Oh, but the marker is gonna be there. So just select these elements and hide them, hide in view categories. I'll have to do that for every floor plan. This is okay. This one I had to hide in view categories. All right, so let's go back and open my sheet. Only sheet in the project. I can continue placing the sheet here. Existing conditions, demolition plan, phase 1. Construction plan, phase 1. Then you can go back, demolition plan, phase 2. And then phase 2, option A. Select the drag and drop. And construction plan, option B. And I have 6 floor plans derived from the same model, displaying 2 phases and 2 design options on phase 2. So I might have gone a little fast, so my apologies for that. If you wanna, if you fall behind, feel free to watch the recording. But know that, you know, phases and design options, it's fundamental to doing retrofits. So this concept is going to be particularly resonant for all of you that do a lot of retrofits on your practice. So I recommend you to really catch up on this concept. There's a couple of limitations that you should be aware, and it's about rooms. Rooms don't travel between phasing. So for example, this is an existing condition. I'm going to drop a room here. Let's say this one, and this is going to be called a conference room. This room will not travel to the next phase. So when I open construction plan phase 1, that room stayed in the past. You cannot bring it into this phase. And unfortunately, you will have to recreate the room in the active view. So conference room again. So room objects don't travel between phases. As soon as you change the property of the view in the, to a different phase, those rooms will not be visible. Let me very quickly go to some of the best practices for phasing, and then we'll wrap up. Let's see here. Some tips. The phase filter override is something that you can customize. Different firms like different line weights, especially principals like to see existing conditions or demolition conditions in certain way. You can change the line weight of the graphic overrides in the phasing dialog box. But once you have them defined, include them in the view templates and avoid the users the need to customize this from project to project. Phasing projects are part of view templates, so they can be consistently applied of floor plans of the same type. A schedule can be phase specific. So you can actually schedule elements per phase. And in this example, for example, I am on phase 1 and I would like, no, let's go to phase 2. This is phase 2, option A. I want to know the schedule of doors, new doors in option A. When you create new schedules, you go to view, a schedule of quantities. Notice now that in order to make a schedule phase specific, you can pick it from this drop-down list. So I'll go into the doors, call this a schedule phase 2, option A. And a door schedule typically has the mark, the room number, room. I don't have rooms, so I'm going to avoid that. Go back to the door category and select the family and type, and what a door will have, width, height, etc. So I'm going to do width, height, and thickness. And I can continue filling this out. One that I'm going to add is the count. And then in the formatting, I want to make sure that count does display totals, calculate totals, and hit OK. So this is the list of doors of phase 2. And now to make it option specific, go to visibility graphics, and visibility graphic actually exists in schedules. This is a new thing for you guys. When you have options enabled in Revit, you will have a visibility graphic inside the schedule. And you can force a schedule to display the content of a specific option. So these are the doors of option A, the primary option. You can go back to visibility graphics and force it to display option B. And these are less doors. This is the count of doors in option B. So schedules can be done to formatted to display information about phase and information about an option. And the same is true for sections. So I'm going to create a section here. And I wanted to display the other direction. What I want is a section in phase 2, option A. So I'm going to open this section, and to double check that I'm looking at the right thing in visibility graphics. Well, let's look at the phase filter. This is this section is associated with phase 1, with phase 2. You see, if I change this to phase 1, there's nothing. This is there was nothing on phase 1. So this is a section in phase 2. And then if I open visibility graphics, look at design options, then I can make this section specific to one of the options. This is the section on option A. This is the section in option B. And now you can rename the section accordingly. Let's keep it on option A. The new section created will appear under the sections here, and you can call this office section phase 2, option 2, option B, option A. And you can continue duplicating, create new sections, elevations, details, and make them phase specific and option specific. All right, a couple of more tips. Obviously, if the wall needs, if you need a partial demolition, you can use the split tool to cut a wall, and then a portion of the wall will be assigned, will be demo, another portion will be existing to remain. To display the cap end of demo walls, these allow the joins. Let me show you in a second what that means. And I already said that, you know, rooms are phase aware. They won't travel between phases. Revit will ignore any room bounding elements that do not exist in the current phase. So rooms unfortunately need to be recreated in every phase. And that, I'm just going to show the floor plan here of construction phase 1, actually demolition phase 1. This was the question. So this is the demolition. This is a wall to be demolished. Notice how it doesn't display the cap. And in order to force this to happen, you hover over this dot, right click, and this allows the join. And then you can grab the wall and stretch it to the face. And now you see the wall cap. It doesn't happen automatically, so you'll have to do this manually, unfortunately. It's going to happen in all these conditions. Again, you select a wall. I'm in the demo plan. Right click on this grip. This allow join and change the wall extent. All right, it's 7:24. I realized that I did not broadcast this class. I forgot to broadcast it, but the recording, I have it on Zoom. So it's going to take about half an hour to get the recording. As soon as I have it, I'm going to download it and upload it into the YouTube channel. Sorry about that. But next class is, we're going to talk about working in teams, work sets, and work sharing, creating a central file, and controlling the accessibility to users in a centralized location. So 2 more classes to go. Last class is all about family creation, and then we'll be done. We'll go back to your life after next week. So, okay, guys, have a great evening. Again, if you have questions, please stay. I'm happy to expand on some of these topics if you have the stamina, or else I'll see you Thursday.
Thank you,
All right.
Cesar. Bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good night.